Right now, there's a good chance a small, self-satisfied predator is asleep somewhere in your home. You feed it, you clean up after it, it ignores you for hours, then decides, on its own schedule, to sit on the one thing you're trying to read. And you accept this. You call it my cat like you're the one in charge. But here's the strange part. That little animal on your couch isn't just a pet. It's the result of one of the weirdest experiments our species ever ran. An experiment nobody meant to start. This is older than the pyramids, older than the alphabet, older than almost every empire you can name. And the wild thing is, we didn't tame the cat the way we tamed everything else. The question is, if nobody set out to make the house cat, where did it come from? To answer that, we have to go back to a time when there was no such thing as a cat that liked you. Start about 10,000 years ago in the Near East. Picture a small wildcat, the African wildcat, sandy-colored, lean, built for one job, killing things smaller than itself. This animal is not cuddly, it's a loner. It defends its territory, avoids other cats, and wants absolutely nothing to do with you. If you looked at that creature and said, one day billions of people will let this thing sleep in their beds, everyone would have laughed at you. Because on paper, the wildcat is the worst possible candidate for domestication. It doesn't live in groups, so there's no pack hierarchy for a human to slot into. It won't follow a leader. It won't work. Dogs hunt with us and guard for us. Cats do neither. They're too independent, too solitary, too proud. So how does the least domesticable animal in the region end up in your living room? The answer isn't about the cat at all. It's about us, and it starts with a pile of grain. Around this time, humans in the Fertile Crescent are doing something brand new. They're farming, they're growing wheat and barley, harvesting more than they can eat in a day, and for the first time in history, they're storing food. Big stockpiles, sitting in one place for months. Think about what that actually creates. A giant, reliable buffet. Not for people, for mice. Where there's stored grain, there are rodents. And where there are rodents in numbers no wild landscape ever produced, something is going to come eat them. And the animal perfectly built to hunt mice was already lurking at the edge of these new settlements, the wildcat. So the cats came for the mice. And here's where it gets clever. Because we didn't choose the cats, the situation did. The wildcats that were a little bolder, a little calmer around humans, got to stay close to the all-you-can-eat mouse buffet. The nervous ones fled and got nothing. Generation after generation, the food rewarded the cats that could tolerate us. We didn't breed them. We built a world that quietly selected them. Nobody sat down and said, let's make a friendlier cat. We made agriculture, and agriculture made the cat. That's a completely different origin story from the dog, and we've got a grave that proves how early it started. On the island of Cyprus, at a site called Chilarocombos, archaeologist Joan Denis Wigné uncovered a human burial. Nothing unusual there, except lying just centimeters away, in its own little pit, carefully placed, was a cat. Not eaten, not a pest, buried, with a person, about 9,500 years ago. And here's the detail that gives me chills. Cats aren't native to Cyprus. There were no wild cats on that island, which means somebody put a cat on a boat, sailed it across open sea, and brought it along on purpose. 9,000 years ago, a person looked at this animal and thought, you're coming with me. That's not a mousetrap anymore. That's a relationship. But the cat hasn't become the icon we know. For that, we head to Egypt. And this is where things get intense. Because the Egyptians didn't just keep cats, they loved them, obsessively. They painted them, pampered them, and eventually worshipped them in the form of the goddess Bastet, protector of the home, of women, of children. Killing a cat, even by accident, could get you killed yourself. When a household cat died, people are said to have shaved their eyebrows in mourning. And then there are the mummies. Archaeologists have found cat cemeteries with hundreds of thousands of mummified cats, bred, raised, and offered to the gods. Yeah, we went from handy little mouse killer to sacred deity you'll mourn with your face in a few thousand years. Cats have always been good at getting promotions. But underneath the worship, something practical was happening. Egypt was a granary of the ancient world, stuffed with the exact stored food cats loved. And from Egypt, the cat began to travel, on trade ships, along the great routes of the ancient world, spreading everywhere humans went. Now, here's what makes this so important, the part that flips the whole story around. Geneticist Carlos Driscoll traced DNA of house cats back to its source, and it all points to that one Near Eastern wildcat. Then, researcher Claudio Ottoni read the DNA of ancient cats across thousands of years and found the cat conquered the world in two great waves, one out of the early Near East, one out of Egypt, riding along with farmers and sailors the entire way. But the real shock is what the DNA didn't show. Barely any change. Compare a house cat to its wild ancestor and they're almost the same animal. Same body, same instincts, same attitude. We reshaped wolves into everything from Chihuahuas to Great Danes. But the cat? The cat basically refused to be redesigned. It let us feed it and house it and adore it, and gave up almost nothing in return. Think about that. We didn't domesticate the cat. The cat let us think we did. It walked into the world we built, decided the terms were acceptable, and kept its wild self almost entirely intact. That's not a servant. That's a business partner who negotiated a very good deal. The last piece is surprisingly recent. Look at a cat with those swirling marbled stripes, the classic tabby. That blotched pattern only became common a few centuries ago in the medieval world, which means the cat you picture in your head is, in code at least, a fairly modern edit, arriving long after the pyramids, as cats fanned out across Europe and beyond, hitching rides on ships to every port on Earth. They conquered the planet, and they did it by sitting still and looking cute near our food. So here's the full picture. A solitary wild predator that wanted nothing to do with us. A pile of grain that changed the rules. Mice, then cats, then a bond nobody planned. A cat on a boat to Cyprus. A goddess in Egypt. Two waves across the ancient world. An animal that let us love it without letting us change it. And it ends right now, with that small carnivore asleep on your couch. Because when you look at your cat, you're not looking at something we created on purpose. You're looking at the ghost of a decision we made 10,000 years ago, when we stopped wandering, settled down, and started storing food, and something wild came to the edge of the firelight and decided we were worth tolerating. We didn't domesticate it. We built a home warm enough that a wild thing chose to stay. That's the story hiding in a purr. If you've got a cat nearby, go ahead and tell it it's ancient. It already knew.